Inside joke, Spacey.
It's all good.
Ben, how you doing, buddy?
Tired.
Yeah, you like you had a long night.
Long day.
I hope it's worth it. I hope it was fun.
I mean, I've been up
But
since
all those
4
AI
a.m. this
shit-
time.
I'm looking for an abandoned convent near Vegas where I could start a strip club called Bad Habits.
What?
I want to open a strip club called Bad Habits. Where all the strippers are named Sister Mary something.
Okay.
Rick's Cabaret. You could be Rick's Cabaret number 2.
Exactly. And you can have the confessional. You can do a lot with the different rooms in the strip club. Anyway, it's just me. It's
All right.
I'm trying to figure out what's not going to be obsoleted by AI, and I figure strip clubs won't be.
Yeah, and
Maybe they will. Maybe all the dancers will be virtual.
All right, let's get going. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right. It is February 24th. I am Benjamin Bry, joined by Robert Marson and Kevin Bakes Baker. This is Wall Street Beats. We have another day in paradise yesterday. Looks like it's a little more calm today. Got the Nvidia tomorrow. And State of the Union this evening, actually, huh, boys? All right, Kevin, you want to start it off? You sounded like you had some excitement. You wanted to talk?
Well, and for long-term, members and viewers, I mean, this is going to be a surprise because I've been, putting the alarm bells out for strategy and hood and what have you. And Bitcoin hit new lows last night, and we broke 63,523. We're around there right now. And this is what I'm putting up on the screen now is BITI, the ProShares Short Bitcoin ETF. I'm a little surprised I don't have the volume confirmation that I normally like. But, look at this thing. I mean, Bitcoin is going down. Yes, it's cut in half. I understand that. But, to me, the worm is turned. I mean, it is Bitcoin's going lower. How much lower? I don't know. Again, I wish I had some volume confirmation. But, I hope we've been helpful getting people out of the way of Bitcoin and all the ancillary plays. So unless we have a dramatic rally and that it's a false breakout to the downside, I don't like Bitcoin.
All right. I think Bitcoin's one of those things that's very reflective of the liquidity situation. So. The market's deleveraging. One of the things I'd tell you is because I'm over in Dubai and I'm over here working with a bunch of guys who are building AI agents and stuff. So I'm kind of on the front line of this. Yeah, it's a thing, but I think they're using that as an excuse. I think the market's deleveraging more than anything else, and it's rotating. Right? Anything you can drop on your feet seems to be trading well, and anything that was kind of in the tech, let's call it expansionary stuff, has been getting dogs. So I mean, I'm not gonna like sell Bitcoin here, but I wouldn't necessarily. I have $20,000 puts on that thing, so I'm if that thing falls out of bed, those would do well. It is kind of that 60 level, it feels like it's a good risk reward. Like if it falls there, you kind of just get out of there, but. I hear what you're saying. There's not a lot of excitement there. What else?
I don't like financials. I literally stayed up very late last night and went through all 5,431 ETFs that are out there. And I could not, I'm amazed. I can't find them. There are no ETFs that short AI, software, everything's on the long side. So for ETF investors, you kind of have to find derivatives, and I haven't really found any yet. And frankly, it's probably late to be shorting those areas. But what is not too late to short, in my opinion, are the financials. And I'm on with Charlie on Thursday, but this is SEF ProShares Short Financials. And I've been reluctant to short financials because Berkshire is such a big part of the particular index that this ETF tracks on the inverse side. But Berkshire is rolling over. JP Morgan just took out the 200-day moving average yesterday. So whatever Jamie said, they did not like yesterday. And Visa is the number 3 name, which is usually sacrosanct. And the financials are going the wrong way. So American Express took it on the chin yesterday as well, or the last couple of days. So this is SEF. I have not done this yet because I think I've got 10 other names that are a little bit better. But I'm watching this closely, and you might hear me come on and say, I'm short the financials officially, but they do not look good. Consumer staples is getting a bid, which I can't believe is bullish for the overall market. And then, like you said, anything that can be displaced by AI is being shot. And and people are going to ask questions later. But short the financials. This is the first time I've said this in a long, long time, but I don't like them. So SEF is one I'm watching and very likely could buy in the near future.
Why not just short the KRE? I own put options on the KRE, and I've hated financials for a long time. They're finally getting dunked on yesterday. But why don't you just short the ETF?
This doesn't look as bad. This is the money center banks look bad. The regionals don't look too bad to me. So I guess maybe it's a capital markets call, but the regionals don't look that concerning to me.
They were down 5% yesterday. They're breaking. I don't know. Look, the curve's flattening until like my biggest position is the SOFR Z7, and until that starts getting going.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't. I'm Bloomberg adjacent. What does that mean?
It's the December 2027 3-month term SOFR futures, which is basically what used to be Eurodollar futures. Basically, it's a bet that rates will be back at 0 soon, and so which I do believe. And that's going to be terrible for banks. Banks are done, dude. I just outright short banks. Don't do it with a levered ETF. Just short the KRE and short the XLF. Like, short the insurers. My man Bose Weinstein, he's got CDS on the insurers. Those guys, they're just long private credit. I wouldn't short the BDCs here. I would short the traditional financials right here. Rates going down, curves flattening in the meantime. Yeah, there's nothing to like there.
Yeah, and I
agree
do not.
With you.
I don't play the leveraged ETFs. Life's too short. I just don't need that added aggravation. I take enough, risk as it is. So, but this is just.
No, but I'm asking, why would you do an inverse versus just short it? Is what I'm trying to say.
I wanted to. Do I have a margin account? Can I do it in a retirement account? I just kind of like to keep things straightforward.
Fair enough. I'm just letting you know that those inverse accounts, you have a decay on them, so you're actually.
No,
losing.
You do. They're imperfect. No question about it. No question. I agree wholeheartedly.
All right.
If you can short them, great.
Robert, what are we doing today, buddy?
No one's been, guys. There's no one been more bearish on banks than me. So
I've been bearish for 9 months, 17 months, dude. I've been short JP Morgan for so long.
You don't get my point, my friend. My point is, in 2005, I turned bearish on banks and haven't been bullish since. 21 straight years.
I was bearish on banks. in 2005. I got a little constructive in the after the SVB because they felt like Bitcoin does right now, and they just absolutely got hated. But whatever. Banks, whatever.
At the top
I don't like banks either.
At the top of the housing bubble, I
Um,
realized bank CEOs didn't know how much money they were going to lose in a housing bust. And I once told a CEO of a bank that when I buy a stock, I like to know how I'm going to lose fundamentally. And not only do I know not how you're going to lose, but you don't know how you're going to lose. Because I don't think
oh
bank
yeah,
CEOs appreciated their screwed up, credit and their, the risk exposure to residential real estate at the time.
I
I
mean
had a long debate
banks are
with
just
Janet Yellen at an airport once about this too, in Jackson Hole. Anyway,
they're
bearish
just
on banks for
they're just like
21 years.
credit. They're just like
Um,
credit. They're
I'm in
super
bank
asymmetric,
stocks.
and there's
I'm in
nothing that can
Bank
blow
Stocks
up like a
Anonymous.
bank.
I'm in Bank
Yeah,
Stocks
I'm with
Anonymous. You
you.
call the 800 number, they talk you off the ledge. You never buy a bank stock.
Okay, what else you got today besides the universal hate for bank stocks that we have on this show?
Otherwise, I got nothing. I'm sorry. It's an I got nothing day, gentlemen. So
Well,
when
what
you
do you
got
think? What do you think?
you
What do
don't
you guys think
make you
about it?
don't make trades up when you got nothing, and there's nothing wrong with got nothing. You just the real money in the last 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. I'll be frank, the worst trades I've made were selling stocks just because I was a little worried about the stock market, so I sold winning stocks, and they kept on winning and kept on winning and kept on winning, and Bakes knows, he does his harvesting of his original capital when he has a big winner, but then he lets to know his winners run. And God, I hope I'm not guilty of doing that yesterday because I did a little trade. I sold about 30% of my TAT technologies at an all-time high. So if you look at that chart, it's very expensive stock. It's nearly quadrupled for me since I bought it on the show 18 months ago, but it's up to 30 times earnings, and I don't have positive vibes on the quarterly release in a couple of weeks. So I trimmed some TATT. Other than
All
that, I
right,
haven't
all
bought
right.
a stock.
TACP?
I haven't bought a stock in a while, other than SimilarWeb, which has been an unmitigated disaster. Not as bad as Crocs. I once went on national TV and pitched Crocs when it went from 70 to 14. And I was wearing the shoes, and I put my feet up in front of the camera, showing my Crocs on my feet, because that was in 2007, 2008. Well, the next quarter, it was a show called Happy Hour on Fox Business. It was my buddy Cody Willard. So I did his TV show. I pitched him Crocs as an example of my contrarian knife, falling knife catching skill. And the next quarter, they pooched the number and the stock hit three and change. So within months, my $14 stocks was three. So that worked out okay. I bought a lot more stock and sold it in the 20s a couple of years later. But anyway, that reminds me of the SimilarWeb story. So that was my last buy. It hasn't worked out, but I'm still holding it and trying to figure out if I need to sell it because they're doomed, or there's going to be a recovery in it going down the road. But there's not a lot of times the markets seem aligned. Most stocks seem aligned with where they should be. The winners have won and are fairly priced. The losers have gotten blasted, and they're kind of where they should be for the new fundamentals. And there are overshoots. And as we talked before, Ben, I do believe PayPal represents an interesting opportunity. I probably will buy a 1% position some point this week just to get money in it in case it gets bought out by JP Morgan at 85, and I'll kick myself in the butt for not owning something. But, I don't have a lot of conviction there yet just because I had a bad experience with it and I don't use it. I turned it off many years ago and have never gone back. I love, Venmo, but the PayPal product, I just felt was way too rigid and moronic 10 years ago and stopped using it a long time ago. So I've got to overcome that to become a shareholder. But
Is JP Morgan the name that's being mentioned?
which one? PayPal?
Is JP Morgan the suitor that's being rumored?
I've
That's the
heard.
rumor. That's the
That's the
rumor. He
rumor.
mentioned it
Yes.
twice after the
Okay.
investor day. Charlie talked about it. They got $60 billion of excess capital. Robert and I both like the PayPal. I own it. $40 billion, $41 billion of cap. And look, they got 425 million users. They're applying for a bank. JP Morgan doesn't want that smoke. They don't want PayPal out there. Just take them out. They're making cash. They just bring them in, fire a bunch of people. It's
It's a
just, I don't know.
it's
PayPal's
a
an easy stock to own.
JP Morgan, by the way, JP Morgan has a history of buying good franchise that come on hard times and fixing them. So if anybody can fix PayPal with the corporate heft behind it, it's JP Morgan. And it's dirt cheap as it is. It's like a 15% free cash flow yield. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and on the forward adjusted, because they're buying back 10-11% of the stock every year. You're basically going to be, it's like basically a $30 stock. You kind of adjust the share count, and then so they're earning $6 free cash. You're at 20% free cash flow on the forward, right? So you got a
Yeah,
contango
yeah.
curve where you're actually rolling up. So I think that like that stock is a good one. I know a lot of smart hedge fund buddies who own that. It's been a dog, but yeah, him mentioning it twice on the call, him having the excess cash, it's cheap. They got the bank charter catalyst. Maybe they don't want to deal with that. I like PayPal. I'm endorsing that. That's my pick of the day. Get into PayPal. Let me ask you guys something else. Let's say Microsoft is about 10% off the liberation lows, and it looks basically like the Bitcoin chart. They're both about to hit the 200-week moving average. Which one do you buy? If you had to buy one, gun to head. I don't want to hear this. I don't buy this. Just choose one.
Microsoft for PayPal?
No, Microsoft or Bitcoin.
Microsoft or Bitcoin? Well,
Yeah,
that's just
I'd buy Microsoft versus Bitcoin.
You don't have an option. No, I would buy PayPal for sure.
Hell, he still dodged it. You're such an ass.
I can't buy Microsoft. I would buy Microsoft instead of Bitcoin. Sorry.
What about you, Banks?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin can get cut in half. I have a hard time seeing Microsoft getting cut in half.
I agree with Banks. Yeah.
And it's the inverse. It's the inverse situation here, where look at the spread over the 200-day back here, where it was Netflix like. It was so good it was bad, and now it's so bad it's good. That spread versus the 200-day is pretty historic, and of all the software companies that are going to get disintermediated, I put this probably close to the last on the list.
Ben, that brings up a great point. That brings up a great point I want to make here. Sorry, it's not on that. It's not on that answer. It's on that question. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did that question with every stock in my long book. Forced to make a trade in my 16 stocks, would I buy or sell? Right? You know what the answer was?
What?
4 buys and 12 sells.
There you go.
That's not. I don't feel good with. I mean, I feel good with that. I wonder if I should be selling more in hindsight. So we'll see.
I would take Bitcoin. I think Microsoft has a lot of issues. I think Teams and all that, that Office stuff is overpriced and it sucks. I just think that like Bitcoin could go to $500,000, $1 million. So just from a convexity standpoint, you got more upside. And yeah, I think you have more downside with Bitcoin, so you'd have to size it more like an option. But I like the optionality of Bitcoin. I don't really have like a view of Bitcoin like a stock. I think of it like it could go to 10,000 or it could go to $500,000. And I will say this: if AI, if all these people and all these worries, well, you know what? If people don't have jobs, the government's going to print money. I'll tell you that. That's for sure. And so, you know what will do well in that? Probably Bitcoin. So, if Bitcoin's just a levered beta to liquidity. So right now we're deleveraging, there's no liquidity. But if they bring the liquidity back, I would bet Bitcoin. So we have 2 for Microsoft. Your host, moderator, Ben, is with Bitcoin. Last question, boys, and then we're going to call it. What's the expectations for Nvidia tomorrow?
I think it's a nothing burger. I think it shrugs. I think it's up 1 or down 2, something like 2%. I have no strong views. Do you?
Anything, Robert?
I'm hoping for a make and miss. I'm hoping for a guide down. I'm still long my Jinx stock at $120. So maybe I should sell that. I bought it to try to jinx it at 120 when 120 was the all-time high, and I made a little money. It's not a real position. It's not even a percent, but I'm still worried about there being the Stargate delays and a lot of delays with power and infrastructure causing a hole in their orders. So while I think the long term is interesting for the company, I don't necessarily know it has to blow up. I'm hopeful that in the next quarter or two, there's just a temporary air pocket while all the GPUs that all the hyperscalers have bought that are sitting in warehouses now waiting to be installed, they can't get installed on a timely basis, and there needs to be a pause in orders. So I'm hopeful that that hits in their outlook in the next couple of quarters.
Yeah, personally, I think a month ago, last time I was in Dubai, I said, you know what, let's own some Nvidia. It was not liked. Then I don't know, a week or two ago, I decided that was enough of that, and then I started shorting the SMH recently. I got a little bit of a memory short in there too, and I think long IGV and Bitcoin, short memory and Nvidia just strictly on positioning. Because remember, markets are really just about positioning at the end of the day. And I think everybody ran out of the software names. They ran out of crypto. They ran out of a few other things, and they didn't know where to go. So they are super crowded in that capex fire hose right now. And if you get any shakiness, plus I can tell you, being over here working with a bunch of guys on AI stuff, there's a bunch of compression coming. So there is a compute surplus on the horizon, my friends. And so might not be this quarter, but I would tell you that is a crowded trade. The everybody's hate for software that's absolutely been decimated, and love for the hardware. You know what happened to .com? Everybody loved the infrastructure and the hardware and the chips, and that shit didn't work. So you know what? I think we're going to have a similar situation. Maybe not this quarter, but that's my view.
Feels to
So,
me like
all right.
it's when, not if, this is going to happen. But you don't want to be killed being early either if you're shorting that stuff. So that's what I wrestle
No,
with a lot.
look. I have no particular view on the quarter. I know these guys jacked up their capex. I understand all that, but I think it's understood as well that they're in a great spot. Well, what's their 2027 outlook? 2028 outlook?
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Not this quarter. I'm with Kevin. Whatever. And there's so much option positioning that goes into this. The reality is, you probably just sell vol here because vol's elevated, skew's elevated just in the index. You have a single stock vol is elevated. So I'm not sure how many people are listening sell vol, but like that would be the actual trade I would do if I was just to be forced to make a trade tomorrow. But I'm not doing anything.
There's already been an interesting move in one of these big infrastructure plays that it was the first most obvious play on electricity or power, and it was a company called Eaton. And Eaton hit 330, I believe, fully 2 years ago. And I believe it's around 340 now, give or take. I don't know. So it's gone nowhere in 2 years. While Ben, the idea that you and I circled, PAL Industries on the long side, got to be 150 a couple times, and it's 500. So you've made money, a shit ton of money in PAL, POWL, in 24 months. You've broken even in Eaton. And the story was simple. PAL was, 10 times earnings, and Eaton was 40 times earnings 2 years ago. And one went up a lot and one's flat. So people now chasing Caterpillar. Oh, look at that move. It's Caterpillar. Whenever you see Wall Street old guys doing shit in mass, it's the story's done. They're pitched. I must hear two a day on Bloomberg and CNBC. People recommend Caterpillar as a play on AI. Okay. And a play on the mining cycle. Maybe it's a better play on the mining cycle than AI for all we know. Maybe that gives them legs. But, there's only so much you could get out of selling diesel generators to back up data centers for their power source, in my opinion. And it's not like it's a lot of IP involved in that. So I think Caterpillar is the new Eaton.
All right, that sounds good. All right, let's call it. It's 7:30 here in Dubai. It is 7:30 there. Let's see how the State of the Union goes tonight, and Nvidia tomorrow. We'll be back at you tomorrow. Wall Street Beats. I'm Ben Bry. It's Robert Marson and our boy Kevin Bakes Baker telling you that he is getting out of the way of Bitcoin. All right, guys, let's call it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thanks, Jen.
All right, guys. Later.